Hello. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a wonderful, good Tuesday. And you're enjoying your Tuesday, and the week is going pretty well for you as you go through the week. Week's going okay for myself. Doing pretty good. Uh, just, trying to just kind of make it through and stuff. I got some stuff to do, as I said later on this week. And I was just really thinking about something today, and I have, of course, a blog today to do about boundaries and about, essentially what happens when you're getting ready to put boundaries up. What happens after you decide to make boundaries with people? Some of the reactions that people may have with you regarding your boundaries and stuff. And today we're going to talk about guilt and people using guilt to make you not have boundaries, to make sure that you don't have healthy boundaries, to make sure you don't honor your healthy boundaries, and they don't have to honor your boundaries. So we're going to talk about that. But today I'm going to talk about a boundary for myself. I love my blog, Married Girl in a Weird World, and I love the YT channel too. I've always enjoyed doing all of this and bringing messages to people, and people seem to enjoy them, and they seem to get a lot from them, which I'm really always happy about and thrilled about that you get some help. But I am right now thinking of closing all of this down. I'm in the middle of doing some thought process. Prayer process to figure out whether or not this needs to go on. I don't really know how much or what else I can say to you all, and stuff. And I don't want to regurgitate messages over and over again. As I've told you before, after a while, that becomes bullying people, and I don't want to do that. And I'm thinking at this point, many people, either you can go back and get the old messages, or you're ready to move on with your life. And I think I might be ready to move on with mine away from this blog. Maybe pay attention to my other blog, the blog I do called Sometimes I Write, where I do some writing, and pay more attention to that blog and stuff, and kind of leave this one and let it go. Not take the blog down, but just let it go, and possibly not blog as much or at all. I'm still in the deciding stage about that. I'm not really sure about whether or not I'm going to do that, but I like to give you all the sort of forewarning. Trust and believe it won't matter what you say. Guilt messages don't really work on me. I have really good boundaries, but I think right now it's time for me to move out of blogging and do something else with my life. I've been doing this for a really long time. When I think about it, really, really long time, and I think it's just time for me to keep it pushing and stuff. There's other stuff for me to do, and I think it's time that I start doing it. So I'm still thinking about it and stuff. I'll come up with some sort of decision pretty soon here, and I'll let you all, of course, know. When that'll happen and everything, and what'll happen, and maybe if it does happen, I'll come back every once in a while and give you updates about what's going on. But yeah, it's I think it's time. But anyway, before that time comes, we're gonna finish boundaries and stuff. So if any of you got this book or had this book, when this whole series started, and I hope you read it, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and it really helped you. It really helped me, and even for people who have what they consider good boundaries, it's helpful because I have what I consider good boundaries. But even I got insight and information and knowledge out of here that just really helped me a lot about boundaries and helping other people regarding their own boundaries. So, today we're going to be talking about resistance to boundaries. And we're going to be talking about one of the ways that people resist your boundaries is through guilt messages. And listen, guilt is powerful. It really is. And think about the last time someone made you feel guilty about something. Guilt and shame are really powerful weapons, and many people know how to use them really well. Because really a lot of manipulative people and things like that know how to use guilt and shame so well. It's like an art form and stuff, and it can sometimes be hard for you if you are a person who's new to setting boundaries, haven't set boundaries before, to know what to do when someone guilts you. Anger is easier to handle. Anger, it's much easier to handle because anger, you see, you know it's anger and stuff, and you can stop it immediately, and you know what people are trying to do with you via anger. They're trying to control you. Guilt, not so much. Many times guilt is put into so many different ways that it's sometimes hard for you to distinguish, are you getting a guilt message, or are you not, a guilt or shame message, or are you not getting a guilt or shame message? It's so hard. And so today we're going to talk about that in the hopes that you can maybe distinguish between the guilt message, and stuff, and really something that you're maybe supposed to be doing and stuff, and the guilt message. Because remember what I said about boundaries, and I've said every week about boundaries. Boundaries are to keep bad stuff out and let good stuff in. Okay, and stuff. So that's the thing about boundaries. They're not a wall, they're a fence. You have an open gate to let good stuff in, but you have enough of a boundary where you can keep bad stuff out. So it's not about keeping everybody out, thinking somehow you're going to stay safe like that. It's letting good stuff in, but keeping bad stuff out. So, you know, no weapon in any arsenal of the controlling person is as strong as the guilt message. People with poor boundaries almost always internalize guilt messages leveled at them. They obey guilty inducing statements that try to make them feel bad. Now, here's a list of statements that someone may be using against you or may use against you when you get ready to set up healthy boundaries for yourself. They may not sound exactly like this, but they'll be pretty close. So look out for these. One of them is, how could you do this to me after all I've done for you? It seems that you could think about someone other than yourself for once. If you really loved me, you would make this telephone call for me, or you would do whatever else there is to do for me. It seems like you would care enough about your family to do this one thing. How do you abandon the family like this? Or how do you abandon me as a friend like this? Or how do you abandon me as a girlfriend or boyfriend or husband and wife or a child? You know how it's turned out in the past when you haven't listened to me. After all, you never had to lift a finger around here. It seems like it's time you did. You know what? If I had it, I would give it to you. Maybe you have no idea how much we sacrificed for you. Yeah, that one. Maybe after I'm dead and gone, you'll be sorry. Sometimes guilt manipulation comes dressed up in God talk. Listen, as a Christian, I've heard it, okay, and know the God talk that's actually not from God, but from manipulators, okay, and stuff. And so, if you're a Christian, you really do have to watch out for this because, yeah, other people who are in your church or other people who are Christian people around you will use this against you. Not everybody knows what boundaries are. Not everybody knows what healthy boundaries are and the healthy boundaries that God wants them to have and you to have. Not everybody knows about that. How can you call yourself a Christian? That one I've heard before. Doesn't the Bible say honor your parents? You're not being very submissive. I'm sure that grieves the Lord. I thought Christians were supposed to think of others. What kind of religion would teach you to abandon your own family? You must really have a spiritual problem to be acting this way. These are all guilt messages that you will get from family, friends, people in your church, possibly from co-workers. There's ways for people to guilt you and and stuff from your children, from husbands and wives, from spouses, from parents and stuff. It happens all the time. People who say these things are trying to make you feel guilty about your choices. They're trying to make you feel bad about deciding how you will spend your own time or resources, about growing up and separating from your parents, or about having a life separate from a friend or spiritual leader. The Bible says that we are to give and not be self centered. It does not say that we have to give whatever anyone wants from us. There is a specific distinction between those two. We are in control of our giving. And I don't think most of us even realize that. You are in control of what you give. And you know if you're being guilted into giving. Listen, I've said it before. Giving out of guilt is not giving. Doing stuff out of guilt is not doing stuff for the right reasons. Giving out of guilt it's not even giving. And if you're giving out of guilt, if you're doing something out of guilt, then really you aren't really doing it, you aren't really doing it for any good purpose or any purpose that's close to God. You're not. You're doing this completely out of guilt and out of shame. And that's not the way that God wants it. You need to remember that you are always in control of your giving. Yes, you don't want to be self-centered. But you know what? You don't have to give to everybody that, comes along. You don't have to go where everybody that asks you to go, that asks you to go and do something, and stuff. I mean, remember, I've said this, and I don't know if anybody, I don't know if I've said this on this blog, but when Jesus was called, many times he was called by people. People asked for Jesus to come and come to them and stuff. And many times Jesus didn't go. Every time somebody called him, he didn't pack his bags up and run and see them. He didn't give every time somebody asked him to give. And I think we get mixed up because we think we're supposed to go and be everywhere. Even Jesus didn't do that. Okay? And that's because your time is really finite. And there's important stuff that you're supposed to be doing. If I'm taking care of my children, okay, and stuff, and seeing about my children and my family, I cannot, as a person, jump up every time a parent calls me to go see about them. Oh, you need to come over here. I can't do that, because my family is my first priority. My husband and my children are my first priority. But there are many times that parents want you to jump up and come see them and, can you come over here? Okay. For stuff that they could actually take care of themselves, and every time, your children move out on their own, they're separate from you. They now have to take care of themselves. You can't, as a parent, jump up and run over there every time they have a problem, specifically if they're in a marriage. That's not your place. And so we're sometimes giving out of feeling guilty instead of actually giving out of love. Guilt should not motivate your giving, ever. And if it does, then you may have a boundary issue. Probably everyone is able to some degree to recognize guilt messages when they hear them. But if you feel bad about your boundaries, maybe you have not looked specifically at the ones your families and other people are using. So, you have to know that family and other people, and really, hey, let's not lie, family will do it a lot. I've had family try to do it. Family will do it a lot and stuff. They love guilt messages. You talk about some people that know how to push your buttons. They know how to push them and stuff. And sometimes we blind ourselves to who people in our family really are, and stuff. Well, they did such and such, and they helped me. That really, just because somebody in your family helps you, which is probably what people in the family should do. At a dire point in your life, maybe when you had a lot of trouble, does not mean that you owe the rest of your life to them. Every time they have a problem, that doesn't mean you owe the rest of your life to them. Okay? And stuff. So you need to, number one, recognize guilt messages. Some people swallow guilt messages without seeing how controlling they are. Be open to rebuke and feedback. You need to know when you are being self-centered. But guilt messages are not given for your growth and good. There's a difference. And you have to know the difference. You have to be able to tell the difference, They are given to manipulate and control. And listen, as much as we think we don't know what manipulation looks like or control, we do. Sometimes we just don't want to believe somebody that we love and care for would try to manipulate and control us, but they will. Two, guilt messages are really anger in disguise. The guilt senders are failing to openly admit their anger at you for what you are doing, probably because they would expose how controlling they really are. They would rather focus on you and your behavior than on how they feel. Focusing on their feelings would get them too close to responsibility, because really their feelings are not your responsibility. Their feelings about you setting up healthy boundaries are their responsibility, not yours. Remember that. Messages hide sadness and hurt. Instead of expressing and owning these feelings, people try to steer the focus onto you and what you are doing. Recognize that guilt messages are sometimes an expression of a person's sadness, hurt, or need. Number 4, if guilt works on you, recognize this is your problem, not theirs. Realize where the real problem is inside. Then you will be able to deal with the outside correctly, with love and limits. If you continue to blame other people for making you feel guilty, they still have power over you. And you are saying that you will only feel good when they stop doing that. You are giving them control over your life. Stop blaming other people. Do not explain or justify. Only guilty children do that. This is only playing into their message. You do not owe guilt senders an explanation. Once again, you do not owe guilt senders an explanation. Just tell what you have chosen. If you want to tell them why you made a certain decision to help them understand, this is okay. If you wish to get them to not make you feel bad or to resolve your guilt, you are playing into their guilt trap. 6, be assertive and interpret their messages as being about their feelings. It sounds like you are angry that I chose to. It sounds like you are sad that I will not. I understand you are very unhappy about what I have decided to do. I'm sorry you feel that way. I realize this is disappointing to you. How can I help? It's hard for you when I have other things to do, isn't it? But the thing is to always remember that the way they're feeling and what they're feeling is not your fault. It's their feelings, and they have to figure out how to resolve those. The main principle is empathize with the distress people are feeling, but make it clear that it is their distress, not yours. Remember, love and limits are the only clear boundaries. If you react, you've lost your boundaries. If other people have the power to get you to react, they are inside your walls. They're inside your boundaries. They're wreaking havoc on you. Stop reacting. Be proactive. Give empathy. Sounds like life is hard right now. Tell me about it. Sometimes people who give guilt messages just want to tell somebody how hard it is. Be a listener, but don't take the blame. And you have to remember, it's sort of hard and maybe a little to juggle between listening and being empathetic and also having boundaries at the same time. But you can listen and be empathetic, but that doesn't mean that you have to, if you listen, that doesn't mean you have to act and rescue people. That doesn't mean you have to do anything. That doesn't even mean you really have to say anything and stuff. You just need to listen, and stuff. You don't really have to do anything. You can still have boundaries and be empathetic towards those you love and you care about. though, and stuff. But you still make sure that you keep your boundaries up and understand and make them understand, you know what, this is my boundaries. This is the way it's going to be. I'm sorry you feel bad and hurt about it, but it's still my boundary. And that's it. Go on your way. Remember, there's no need to explain. There's no need to give excuses about why you did what you did. Because when you do, you're letting people have control over you. And the reason you have boundaries, the reason we make boundaries is to release ourselves from the control of others. Okay? To release ourselves from that control, to be able to make decisions, to keep bad stuff out of our lives and to let good things into our lives and stuff. And people, many people don't have boundaries. Many people don't know what boundaries are. Many people do know what boundaries are, but they don't like them and stuff like that. But still, that's still not your issue. Your issue to make sure that you have healthy boundaries in your life so you can stay happy and healthy, and stuff. You don't have to live with guilt. You don't have to live with shame. You don't have to give into people's anger and become angry yourself and stuff. So, those things don't end up affecting you. Next week, we'll be talking about consequences and counter moves. Another thing that boundary resistors will do to you. So make sure that you're here so we can talk about consequences and counter moves and stuff and what that's going to mean for you. As boundary resistors, try to make sure that you don't have healthy boundaries. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.